and welcome to another session of India Employer Forum Samvaad, a dialogue series where we bring together industry stalwarts to discuss the real-world challenges and opportunities in the changing world of work. I'm Dhiren Makhija, Senior Vice President, Team Lead Services Limited, and I'll be your host and moderator for today's conversation, which is Bridging India's Insurance Gap. For all of you who are joining in for the first time, India Employer Forum is a non-profit community that discusses, understands, and documents the many aspects of employment, employability, and the ease of doing business as we head towards India at 100. TeamLease is a knowledge partner providing expertise, research, and insights while supporting IEF via multiple events, webinars, and other initiatives. To set the context for today's discussion, let's imagine India where every citizen and every business has the right insurance coverage, where financial security is not really a privilege anymore, but a promise. That is a vision of insurance for all by 2047. In fact, one of the reports which was released by Swiss Re back in 2025 claimed that India would be one of the fastest growing insurance market amongst the G20 companies for the next 5 years to come. Aiding this are multiple other initiatives that have fallen in place. For example, the government had actually proposed an FDI cap limit being raised all the way to 100% back in the budget, and which got approved on the 30th of December, basically got notified back then. All this primarily would help us ensure that we have the right kind of capital flowing into the market. And with this comes opportunity as well as responsibility. Investments flowing in will primarily result in more job opportunities, which in turn would require a lot of skill development and a larger level of financial inclusion. To add to this, the growth is now not going to be only in metro cities or tier 1 cities, but also is going to move towards your tier 2 and tier 3 cities, which primarily would require new means of adoption by insurance companies in the form of digital solutions or multiple other ways of acquiring customers. So to discuss these opportunities and challenges with us today, we have Ms. Kiran Yadav, a seasoned HR leader with close to 2 decades of experience across the insurance and financial service sector. Kiran currently serves as the Chief People Officer at Canara HSBC Life Insurance, where she leads the organization's people strategy, talent agenda, and cultural transformation initiatives. Known for a strong business-aligned HR approach, Kiran has played a pivotal role in building high-performance teams, strengthening leadership pipelines, and driving organization-wide change to support long-term growth. Prior to this, Kiran has held very senior positions in companies like PNB MetLife India Insurance, Aviva Life Insurance, GE Capital, and more. So Kiran, it's a pleasure to have you on this particular Samvaad right now, and thank you for taking the time out.
Thank you so much, Dhiren. One, for your absolutely wonderful introduction. I feel very privileged to be in this position today. Very grateful, for all the support in all the organizations that I worked for. And today, if I'm able to, speak on this forum and be with all of you, it's an absolute honor for me too.
Thank you, Kiran. I'm sure your insights are going to be taken by most of them out there and will be a great learning experience for us. So good. So if in case I could start off with the very first question, Kiran.
Yes.
Sabka Bima Sabki Raksha. I think that's the phrase which is started off this year, where the government primarily has increased the FDI cap to 100% right now. I would love to hear your views on how do you see this aiding the insurance piece in India and the transformation that you foresee over the next 5 to 10 years.
A lovely question to start. Before I say anything else, I must also let you know that, one of our mission statements is about inclusivity. And that is something that is not just very core to my organization at Canara HSBC Life Insurance, but also a fundamental point as a democratic, as a diverse country that we are in. So this change is very welcome. Firstly, I think, greater investments will strengthen long-term capabilities. Increased FDI can support better technology, stronger training systems, and more resilient organizations, not just faster growth. The nature of jobs also, I feel, Dhiren, will evolve as the sector grows, because the demand will rise not only for frontline roles, but also for skills in technical functions like underwriting, analytics, customer experience, digital operations. So AI is not going to take away all the jobs. There are still a load of things that we will continue to deliver as an industry. Also, I feel that global capability and global capital will bring in new standards. We would be under the microscope a little bit for all the right reasons, because along with funding, international participation very often raises the bar on governance, risk management, and people practices across the
Great.
ecosystem, especially HR. It's evolving so fast. Today you think you're doing the best that you can, and tomorrow suddenly it becomes redundant, because as Gen Z and Gen Alpha come in the workforces, we are continuously challenged to bring in more evolved practices, more diverse practices, and suddenly you're challenged because one rule fits all is not working anymore. HR teams typically are so passionate about their policies and standardization, and that's one thing that we have to sort of move away from. Standardization is going to be so passe in the future. You have to deal with every generation of the workforce in a different manner, because different things appeal to different people, and ultimately inclusion is also going to be built through employability. As the insurance sector is going to expand, and if I may use the word, it should explode, because that's the right thing. It will create pathways for skills, formal employment, financial awareness, which, in spite of so much digital education going on, I think financial awareness, especially for women, I think needs a little bit, a tad more effort, and for it to come up the curve. So I'm thinking that this change would be welcome from a supporting both economic and social resilience standpoint. And finally, I'd like to wrap up by saying that insurance for all depends on people on the ground. So reaching underserved markets, that's something that all insurance companies have it as one of their goals. Reaching the underserved markets, it requires a well-trained, locally rooted team which understands the community needs. So yes, in the world of globalization, I think localization at our level is gonna help us get insurance for all.
Thanks, Kiran. I like the way you put across. In a world of globalization, localization will play a very critical role to ensure that it's the
Yes.
right kind of inclusive piece. Very nice. So, if in case I'm to actually pick up this part itself, financial companies and insurance companies especially hire a large number of entry level graduates. They could be freshers or with 6 months of experience and the likes. And this could be across different roles. Could be a customer service, sales, relationship management, and so on and so forth, right? How do you at Canara HSBC ensure that this generation, especially your Gen Z, Gen Alpha, as you rightly called out, are equipped with the right skill set and can deliver to the very best to ensure that the outcomes are as desired from a business perspective? Kiran, very nicely put by you, where you highlighted that globalization requires localization for the right kind of an inclusive growth, right? Where insurance for all would be possible only with the right kind of localization, especially in your tier 2 and tier 3 cities. So, if I'm to pick it up from there and follow it up with a question, primarily where your financial services and especially insurance companies hire a large number of entry level graduates or the ones with 6 months experience and so on, right? And these could be across different roles, your customer service, your sales, and so on and so forth. Now, at Canara HSBC, if you could just share a few thoughts on how do you go about this and how do you ensure the right kind of training and handholding to ensure that the results that you get out of this talent pool can be maximized and can be for a longer period of time?
And thank you for that lovely question. And I'm going to selfishly answer that at a more generic level on what we should do. I'm going to be honest and say that it's not like we're able to do all of that I'm going to say, but really that's the aspiration. So, first of
Mhm.
all, I think the most important thing is to start treating entry level jobs as a beginning of a career and not just a transaction. Attrition is a little high at junior level roles in the insurance sector. And I think one of the lessons that we could learn really is to find opportunities and ways. We are not a sunrise sector anymore. It's been 20 years, but we still struggle with attrition. So I guess, one of the key things as a sector we need to do is find ways where people see us as a career and not just a transaction. And it's both sides, really. And I think the first step we have to take as employers, where we are able to give the comfort to our staff that this is not just a job, this is some place that you can clearly grow, where you connect with the organization, you are able to progress, we are able to build strong exposure of people and not just performance. At junior levels, there's just so much value to performance and ratings and what you've done in 6 months that we're not able to put a landscape on how you would look like 2 years later. So while things have come down to people measuring performance in 3 months, 5 months, 8 months, I think it may make more sense to give people more time to settle, show them the purpose, see where they can be, how we can support them better, invest in people, and then look at longer career trajectories. It's more easily said than done because there is a goal sheet that you have to look at and there are targets that have to be met. But I think for the sake of industry and brand as well, I think it's very important that we invest long term in people. Thank you for that lovely question, Dhiren. It's a topic that insurance industry actually has been struggling with for a while. It's something I'm passionate about. So I'd like you to allow me to answer, not just from what we are doing, because I'm still on aspirational steps, but what really we should look at if we want to really make it beneficial for both the sides. So I think the first thing I'd like to highlight, on this is that we have to start treating entry-level jobs as entry of a career and not just a transaction that we are in. It's discomforting for me that we have accepted the fact that people would leave a lot sooner than we would want them to. Attrition is kind of taken as a given, and that really bothers me as an HR person. Why should that be the case? So I think the first thing we should really look at is make sure how is it that we can connect with people at those levels very early on, where we can give them the confidence that you can be here longer, we are willing to invest in you, provide clarity on learning, progression, exposure, build very strong pipelines so that it's not just a focus on volume but also on strength. One of the ways to do that is to anchor early talent on purpose and not just performance. At junior levels, there is just so much focus on matrix and KRAs and how you've done and stack ranking and all of that, that we sort of, confuse people, with a marathon race. It's not how careers are to be built, right? So I think it's very important to look at a longer view, longer picture. And so while there are a lot of AI tools and HR tools today which measure you on a day-to-day basis, and that's nice too, but I think careers, if we want to look at long term, there has to be a better anchoring on values, collaboration. What is it that the organization can do for you before we push you to do meet goals for us. Importantly, we should hire for the mindset and not just for skills, because skills can be built. Changing mindsets is very, very difficult. So I think looking at people who are adaptable, empathetic, and ethical judgments, I think, are so much more important because skills, like I said, can be taught. Technical readiness can be prepared, but the environment, mindset, all of that is really something that is difficult to change. So those are the things we should really focus on. And a very passionate topic in my organization, and I personally believe in, after having seen hundreds of cycles of reviews happening, the biggest link in this whole chain is the first time manager. They have the maximum influence over the kids that they are mentoring, coaching, and reviewing. And if they are not ready to be managers who are also coaches, then everything sort of tumbles down as in a dominoes effect. So I think that is something all organizations, if not already doing, should focus on deeply, because the quality of a fresher's experience is almost always shaped by their first manager. And it's our job to make sure they are not scarred for life, but they get in the organizations and anywhere else eventually, with a sense of support and employability increase and training and able to be guided appropriately. And those are the things that will significantly help in retention as well. So the role of, I think, a first-time manager is crucial in employability, retention, and how a company really grows.
Very nice. I like two things that you really said very aptly. One, you highlighted that let's not look at an entry level as a transaction, right? As you said, for many of them, it's just a tick mark saying, hey, let's get a certain number of people on board. And the other part, aptly put by you, that people usually leave not the job, but the managers, especially for the ones who are working for the very first time. So very aptly put by you out of there. So just want to understand, with respect to recruitment or hiring, do you use any kind of AI tools right now for hiring also, or it's primarily only for the management of performance and so on and so forth?
No, in fact, Dhiren, we are using more tools at junior levels because, in this whole gig economy world space, that is a role which is broadly formatted. So yes, it's easier to use AI on those recruitments. It's more standardized, formatted in that sense. While without contradicting my previous stance, looking at mindset is something AI is not going to do that much for you. We still depend on managers to do that. But yeah, a lot of prelim work is happening through AI now, and that's a bus that you can't afford to miss. It isn't a choice anymore. AI is a mandate now and not really an option. So yes, we do use a lot of AI tools, and so that it helps us focus on the right things and does away for all the manual work. So yes, it's a resounding yes, we have to. It isn't a choice anymore.
Got it. As you said, I think AI is also going to be a learning curve for most of us to see how we could leverage on it. So if I'm to still just stick on the hiring piece, when we talk of workplace inclusivity, right, and diversity, women unfortunately still face some kind of invisible barriers which are created by subconscious biases or stereotypes, right? So, if I could just take your views around that, especially from an insurance sector, what are the challenges that you see, and how can organizations really address this?
And you're right, the world, we are in 2025, the world is moving very fast. Diversity is being spoken about in the last 20 years. But yes, the biggest barriers are often unspoken. However modern we are becoming, there are stereotypes that we still have to deal with. Bias tends to show up, on who gets visibility, who is trusted with stretch roles, and how performance is interpreted rather than in formal policies, really. So yes, that is true. Unfortunately, a lot of times life stages women have to go through are mistaken for lack of ambition, and that's so far from true. That's now how really life is, and I wish we could just speak more about it, do more about it. Again, at my organization, that's one thing that we deeply, it resonates with us, that we have to value the life stages people go through. In the last 10 years, our diversity ratio, I won't say we've gotten to where we want to, but it has more than doubled. So we started with about 15% 10 years back. Today we are at 36%, and craving to do more. One of the things that we've done, and I believe it's the first in the insurance sector at least, is introduce something called a nanny fee. So we realized, Dhiren, at some point of time, women were forced to make choices of getting off the career escalator when they had babies because the financial math was not working out for them. And we said, let's see what we can do about that to keep them going. Because if we can help them through that one phase, they'll be back where they deserve. And so we introduced this monetary concept for our junior level female staff, where we supported them with a financial input, sort of like a nanny fee to provide support to their child during this time. And we give this for about 3 years till the kid is able to go to school or a creche properly. So that's something which has really helped us with our retention, deeply valued by our staff. And it's something that we are continuously focusing on building. So like I said, small steps, small milestones, but companies need to look at what is relevant for them. Sometimes, diversity initiatives become a fad. And if it is not converting value for you, then really, you don't have to go for something just because it's fashionable to say that. You have to look at what works for you as an organization. What is your population like? What is it that will work for them? And continue to sort of talk about it and make sure leadership is always role modeling on these things and make it like a normalized thing and not really like it's an exception. Flexibility, for example, should be seen to enable performance and not signal a compromise. When we design flexible opportunities for people who need it at that point of time, it increases productivity, it enhances loyalty, and it's not just women. Everybody benefits from these retention initiatives. Progress at all times must be visible and measurable. So inclusion, when we talk about, it becomes more meaningful when it is tracked, reviewed, and owned by leadership, and not just, as an attractive goal. So we have to make it real time and not just as a passing fad and just do something. And most importantly, Dhiren, it has to be customized to the company's need. So that's something that we focus on a lot.
Got it. No, I think it's a lovely gesture. As you rightly said, women go through different life stages, which unfortunately at times is not understood by all. And your gesture on the concept of nanny fee is brilliant, right? Very small, but very critical, which obviously helps increase loyalty, reduce attrition, and more. If I'm to pick up on attrition, since the term attrition also came up, the industry sees around that 24 to 27% kind of a thing. And at the entry level could go as high as even 50, 55%, right? So What kind of challenges do you face? And if you could share some thoughts or measures that you would love to implement or have implemented to control this?
Thank you for that question. Yes, entry level jobs across multiple sectors, whether it's telecom, insurance, we do have bigger numbers, yes, to deal with. One of the reasons could be that as the country is progressing, people do have a higher amount to spend on things, but they are not investing in insurance that much. For some reason, insurance is something that everybody's postponing, not their car insurances, but their life insurances. So that, unfortunately, while there is a spurt of spending money post COVID, especially the rain, people's spending power, their mindsets have changed significantly. Today everybody wants to travel, live their life. Zindagi na mile dobara is like just such a part of life now, and it's a good thing. People are spending, because travel really expands your mind. That whole our parents. Generation about saving has sort of dipped a little bit in good ways, I would say. The fact that in spite of so much spending happening, it is not happening as much as the insurance sector would want it to happen on our products, and we can talk about it in a moment. Important. So coming to spending power, like I said, I wish people would save a little bit for insurance as well, because the sooner you buy, the more beneficial it is for you, because you are in the prime of health and you get into an early investing habit. But since that is not happening as much, the goal sheets can sometimes be overwhelming for the people, and which is why sometimes they may look at more easier avenues or other alternatives, which is why attrition is high. And that's something that we are now trying to take cognizance of. And like I said earlier, we have to look at people beyond 3 months, 4 months, 5 months reviews. We will have to look at training them. And there's a system that we are developing now, which is a very high focus on input management. So not just look at, meeting the target, how you will get there, preparing a cycle for you, making a progression plan for you, and strengthening the framework for you, so you're able to, like this quote is there, teach a person to fish and you don't have to feed them for life. So we're trying to focus on basic principles on input management, so people are able to adapt to their goal sheets and are not overwhelmed by them. So those are the things that we are investing in, so that we're able to keep them longer, because they're able to perform longer. Performance becomes a very key parameter at junior levels, and that's a little bit of shift we are focusing on now, looking at, like I said, career progression as a long-term plan, and giving them the tools, enabling proper reviews, ensuring the first line managers are adept at handling this workforce, and providing a conducive and safe workplace where they can thrive and not just be worried about day-to-day goals. So looking at longevity and retention from that perspective.
Excellent. I think a concept of mentor and buddy is also being adopted by quite a few companies right now,
Yes,
to ensure that there is someone who could really advise and guide you, and there is someone who you could go to actually address your other set of challenges. So that's something very
absolutely.
interesting. You made a very nice point. You said that insurance is unfortunately being postponed, right? So one of the Policy Bazaar surveys highlighted that Gen Z is more inclined towards investments around your SIP, equity market, stocks, and the likes, vis-a-vis your millennials who also focused a lot on the safety net. Could be your health insurance, term insurance, and so on and so forth. If you were to just share, since you come from the industry and you understand this really well, if you were to share a few key thoughts around this for the audience out over there, on why insurance really is critical and how you at Canara HSBC sees this, that would be very helpful.
Thank you, Dhiren, for that lovely question. And I'm so grateful for this opportunity. To everybody who's listening to this, please hear me. I speak from a position of not just experience, but having seen so many life cycles and customer experiences, that today, if I'm able to make a difference to your thought process and plans, it would be a great achievement for me. Insurance, Dhiren, is often, yes, it's true, is seen as something that we can postpone. Many young consumers focus on wealth creation and view protection as something that we can address later. The gap lies in recognizing that insurance is not about returns. So really, it's not fair to compare. but it's about continuity when life does not go as planned, right? So while you're right, the survey is right, that's where they're investing in, because they're looking at wealth creation, but I'm not even necessarily competing in that space. I have a much broader agenda, right? That too,
Yeah.
but a lot more. And since you spoke about Gen Z, risk to them feels distant when you're that young. Health concerns, income disruption, unexpected responsibilities are often very underestimated, at early life stages, especially for current generations who are happy to stay at home where parents are still taking care of a lot of stuff for them. So it's not even in your universe to think about all this, but I really, really encourage everybody who's in their 20s, 30s to really take this advice seriously. Do not underestimate, all of this. This delayed decision can be very restrictive and very costly later. So invest now in life insurance, compare products, see the best that you can. But the sooner you do this, the better for you, because when you start with protection very early, it is most affordable and it is most comprehensive. Think of insurance as a safety net that allows you to invest, spend, and take risks, with a lot more confidence. And finally, financial literacy, it needs to feel real. Education works best when insurance is explained through everyday life situations, which is what our teams are able to do. Our trainers are coaching our people, our advisors, and I'm sure it's the same for other companies in the industry too. We are making sure they're able to give you great advice, meet them, evaluate, look at all the product terminology in detail. There is no point to get bogged down with all the fine print. Everything is very, very easily explainable today. As an insurance sector, we are also simplifying a lot. In fact, again, one of our mission statements at my company, Canara HSBC, is to ensure our products are simple and for everybody, everywhere. So that's something that we are very deeply focusing on. So yes, when people see how protection supports their ambition, I think understanding will improve naturally. But the first step all of you have to take to make sure that you are financially savvy, educated, and have a broad spectrum, not just few tools that you look at.
Got it. Thanks, Kiran. Very well articulated, I must definitely say. So great. With this scale with respect to insurance, it gets very important to have people reaching out to others. While technology is going to aid, I'm sure, as you said, we're going to see an explosion with respect to this particular sector, especially with the investments coming in. So my last question to you would be for all the HR managers and the teams out there. If they were to talk of a career progression for an entry level, what would be one of the better ways of putting it across for a new joinee to motivate him to join, stay, and excel? Your 2 cents around that would be very helpful.
Space will make you thrive. I genuinely believe that everybody has adequate IQ, adequate empathy, and skills today to do a job well. But the culture of the organization is very critical for you to thrive. You do spend a significant part of your day at your workplace. And the beliefs of the organization, the values of the organization have to resonate very strongly with you. Most people can do most jobs, but you have to be a happy person at your workplace to really thrive, right? You have and absorb all the learning that is easily available. You have to be able to be yourself in the organization where you feel it's safe, it's collaborative, it's encouraging, and which is when you would, bring out your best as well. So I think the first thing people should do is a cultural match. Pray for a great manager. Bring in your best self, to the organization. Where I think one of the important things would be ability to deal with ambiguity. There are days you may not know what to do, but that's all right. You will figure out, somebody will help you. But there are no fixed formats anymore. So you should be comfortable with ambiguity. You should be comfortable. And that's something that we see as Gen Alpha is coming. They are not so used to working with a lot of people. Collaboration is a skill that is extremely crucial. And I see that missing slightly in today's generation because they've been brought up in nuclear families where, and I probably am guilty of that as a parent, where there's just so much focus on the kids that they used to believe that the world revolves around them. That unfortunately is not true. In workplaces, you have to make your own world. So I think that little stretching your hand out, meeting new people, letting yourself be a little vulnerable, I think will earn you a lot many friends and let you thrive in a workplace where you're able to learn so much more, absorb so much more. But the first step really has to come from you. Organizations can build in, huge libraries of stuff that you can learn from, a whole lot of AI things to work from. We have recently collaborated with LinkedIn and brought it literally to your doorstep, where people can really, really invest in the kind of knowledge that they want to do. But again, the first step has to come from you, where you have to be open-minded and willing to take it all. So that's something that's very important.
No, very nicely put. As you said, I remember days where we would get back from school and be ready to run to the ground to play some physical
Yes,
sport. But right now, technology also has been like a deterrent in its own little ways, where collaboration or life skills is facing its own challenges. But good, Kiran, while I would
absolutely.
love to continue this longer, I think it's been a great discussion. Thank you so much. I loved a few key points that you definitely touched upon. For example, talent, look at it more not from a purpose, not only from a performance perspective. I think that phrase really stuck with me, where most of them start gauging performance right from start. But if you look at it from a purpose and a longer term tenure, that would be very, very interesting. With respect to capital inflow, aptly put by you, new standards, new governance, which in turn would help us scale to new highs, which could be a very exciting run for India from an insurance perspective. Uh, your insights and inputs for the youngsters on a career as well as investments was fabulous. So thank you so much for taking the time out, Kiran, and would love to connect with you again.